Hi everyone, I'm Allie with Potomac Beads. And this Better Beader episode, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about patterns, designs, use of patterns and designs, and some etiquette that go along with it. Now, it's very legalistic when it comes to kind of enforcing and upholding things, and I thought I would start kind of at the beginning. So the first thing that you're going to be aware of sometimes is going to be a trademark. A trademark refers to something that is a symbol or a word or a group of words that describes a product or a company, such as, other side, the little symbol here at the top. That's going to be a trademarked item. That's going to be a logo or a design. Think of the little apple for Apple computers, or think of the word Nike for the shoes. That's going to be something that's trademarked. It is illegal to use a trademark symbol if you don't actually have the item trademarked with the government and the trademark in the actual US government. Now, there's also, going down kind of from trademark, there's patents. So the idea, again, a patent, you can't say you have a patent if you don't have a patent. You can say patent pending if you have one that's actually being reviewed. But a patent, you don't want to think of mainly as a pattern or a design. It's going to be an element that is used in the creation of something, an invention, an actual mold, something as far as that in jewelry making. Think of maybe the one-step looper. You could actually patent that because a design element tool, and it's not going to be an actual design. You can patent the design for these different mechanisms or these different tools, but you want to think of it more as an idea to exclude others from selling or using an invention. That's the idea of the patent. So what comes into play with beading and with jewelry making and a lot of other crafts as well is there's so many patterns, tutorials, kits, designs, etc. out there. And there's always constant battles, and I answer a lot of questions where people are very polite, asking if they can use or sell or what they can do with the patterns. So the problem with copyright is actually anything that as soon as you write it down or draw it or put it into words, print it out, that's going to be a copyright. However, the original idea is that it needs to be in a tangible form. So you can't say, oh, I had that verbal or I did that. You have to have it written down, typed somewhere, printed somewhere. And the copyright is going to be referring to the actual written words and any illustrations or diagrams that you may have going along with that, as well as the photos going along with any tutorials. So if you have a tutorial and you have the actual pattern that is written out, that is trademarkable. However, here's where it becomes fun. It's actually not really enforceable. So the idea of, copyright, not trademarkable. So the idea of the whole copyright is that you're giving an original idea and you're having that written down in text or picture form or performance, and those things are under that copyright law. However, this is where it really becomes tricky, is that copyright exists again from that moment that you create the text or the illustration or anything like that, but you can't really protect it in court without registering your work with the US Copyright Office. So think about books, that sort of thing. That's going to be more, you're going to take the time, you're going to maybe copyright that with the Copyright Office. The other thing is that in addition to the actual copyright and the design, there's the method that goes along. So people ask me a lot with the different videos that they watch or if they do my patterns. You have no control. Anybody that does a written pattern and claims copyright can have no control over the use or the sale of the actual product that's made after that method. So that's something that people kind of get confused about, that, yeah, you can make it, but you can't sell the piece, or you can make it, you can't teach the piece. It's actually incorrect. It might be a very nice etiquette thing to ask the designer that actually made the pattern or created the pattern and the text to go along with it if you can use that design method to teach. You want to ask them and be polite again if you can use their instructions specifically as they are, that copyright text and illustrations, that you're going to want to definitely check and see and ask them if you can use that information. But again, unless they took the time to actually register it with the US Copyright organization, you can't actually enforce that. So they could theoretically take your pattern, go to a different bead store or bead class and teach directly from your pattern. And it's kind of gray that there's nothing you can really do about that. Now, is that person awesome and nice and kind? Absolutely not. You want to design and ask the designer for that information. Designers take time to make patterns, to make written tutorials, to make YouTube videos. And it's always really nice and kind if you ask them before doing anything. You can ask them if you can sell their piece. I always say yes, you can sell any piece that you come out with, anything that you're doing. It's nice to give the author or the designer credit for that piece. Now again, the method that is used to create that piece of jewelry or to create that pattern cannot and is not included in that copyright protection, even if you went through the whole process of applying for that copyright. That's because the method is too hard to actually control, and it doesn't follow and fall under anything copyright. You can simply add one more 11-0 seed bead in there or two more 15-0s, and you change the actual pattern that's created. So the method going along with any of the written instructions or the pictures cannot be enforced, unfortunately. Again, this is where comment etiquette comes into place. Now, I charge very little for my patterns. Usually most of them are just $5 because it takes time to actually create the patterns and to make the patterns. So I ask that I do the videos for free, and then I ask that people, if they do want the written tutorial that goes along with it, it's usually just a $5 fee, or sometimes we give them out for free. Now, the person could take that pattern and they can copy it and they can redistribute it to friends, even if they have that little for personal use only on the actual pattern, because there wasn't really an interaction in the transaction between you as the pattern purchaser and me as the pattern designer or the pattern creator. So it can't really hold up in court. So you can redistribute that. Now again, does that make you a nice person? Not really, because most of the time the fees that are involved help with that creative process and give the creator more of a desire and more of the financial means to create more for you and to continue in their art. Now, again, you can go for it and recopy it and post it, and I can't really do anything for you. But again, karma, it's kind of nice to actually honor the wishes of the people that are involved. Legally, again, that copyright does not actually go through any method. So if I'm teaching a herringbone stitch, I can't copyright that herringbone stitch. I could apply for a copyright for the actual book that I did or information that I did, but how many people are actually going through that process? Very little. Remember, it is illegal to use things such as copyright, trademark, or patent if it's not actually done so. So this is again where that gray line comes into effect and whether or not you can produce and actually distribute. So here's what I say in all of this. So you can write a tutorial on the method of beading, and the text and the illustration are copyright if you go through that whole US Copyright Office. The method that is used is not an actual copywritten thing. So can people use and sell things that they get from patterns? Absolutely. Is it definitely super nice to give the designer some credit? Yes, it's nice to give the designer some credit. Is it not nice to take all the patterns and put them somewhere else that people can easily download? Of course it's not. This is where people just use your common sense. Everybody be kind to one another. And again, that whole idea of karma, what comes and goes. You want to make sure that you are being a responsible beader and a responsible designer, responsible artist, and treating those that design and create with respect. That goes without saying, don't make another YouTube video that's exactly the same as mine and say it's the same thing. Now, that being said, again, it will happen. There are only so many combinations of things. The more unique you make your project, the more likely it is going to be that it cannot be copied and that somebody will not write new instructions or have new pictures or do a new video for it. If you have a simple herringbone with super duos, it's been done before. It's been there before. And to say and contact someone and say it's the same as my design, it's the same as my pattern, it's a herringbone pattern. You can say something as far as, oh, this is peyote stitch, and this peyote stitch in a cubic right angle, and then I get bigger and smaller. Somebody's probably already done it before. If you go in and add little elements, make your design a little bit more interesting, make it a little bit more unique, then you have some ground to say to somebody else that's creating, hey, I have something that's similar to this. And you know what? Great minds think alike. So I've had instances with other designers where we sat down to do something with the same bead, and it looks a lot alike, and it looks almost identical. and we weren't anywhere near one another or anywhere even in the vicinity of each other. It's just the natural way some beads are put together. So to boil this Better Beader kind of all down, this will create probably tons of comments below. I want to just say the best thing to do is to be kind and be nice to the person that's creating the pattern or the illustrations or the text. I know that nothing can really be enforced when it comes to that, and there's been all kinds of cases where people have tried to enforce those different issues. But remember, it's really just that responsibility of you as an artist and the designer to be respectful of other people's time and effort and creativity. Give credit where credit is due. If you've looked at somebody's design, even if you haven't read through the pattern or seen the text, if you've looked at their design and their method, give them a little shout out and say, I use this as inspiration if you changed it a little bit. It's always kind, again, give credit where credit is due. As long as we stick to that and we're respectful of each other and realize that the patterns that people create and do are sometimes their way to help them financially get through to the next pattern. Keep that in mind as you look at the designs and you post. This is a huge issue, I know, in Instagram, huge issue on Pinterest, people constantly reposting things and giving credit, not giving credit, and coming back to different websites. So just be kind, be nice to each other, and we'll all get along in that beading and crafting community. Without saying it too, I want to let you know that anything that you design or that you create is usually a masterpiece of your own. Be happy about it. You don't need to go through the copyright process. You can't copyright the method anyway, and it's not really patentable, and it's not a trademarkable item as well. But be proud of the things that you make and know that the methods that you created are your own methods. In addition, if you're looking at any of the patterns and any of the designs, anything that you learn from me, I'm happy for you to be able to sell it. That means you can buy more beads. So go ahead and tack that on. Most people that are buying from you at craft fairs or something, they're not going to know who I am or who the designer is. If you want to put a little made by, designed by, created based upon, that's great. But in my case, I don't care. You don't need to do that. Please feel free to sell away so you can get more supplies and more beading fun and have more fun with it. But there are other designers that will want you to give them credit if you can. Again, nothing's legally enforceable, but if you can give them credit, it's always nice and a nice thing to do, especially if you're posting pictures online, because again, those get pinned and placed in all different places. In addition to that, any written patterns that I produce, it's always nice if you actually purchase the pattern, and rather than hand it out to your friends, you can buy them a little gift of it as well, or give me a call and let me know if you want to teach it in your local bead store or to a group of friends, and I'm usually happy to say, go for it, give me a little credit, and sometimes I'll even let you redistribute that pattern for that as well. So again, ask the designer. Keep in mind that really nothing's kind of enforceable, and in the courtroom, everything's kind of submissible. That whole even for personal use can't really be held up in court. So there's been a number of different cases, and I looked at so many different websites for this, so much legal jargon with different patterns and knitting and quilting and all kinds of different things. So everyone just have fun, be kind to each other, give credit where credit is due, and happy beading. All of these Better Beader episodes are used to make you a better beader. They're supposed to make you more informed on different products, techniques, ideas, and also things like pattern etiquette. If you want to, remember that you can subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit that little bell, and give a little thumbs up to this as well. I'm sure comments will flow underneath here as well about this, because this is always a hot topic in our different beading groups on Facebook and online. Keep in mind too, no matter what you do, have fun, create. It's not supposed to be a stressful thing. This is an art form, and don't stress about the little things, about the designs and the details. Thanks so much for watching, and from all of us here at PotomacBeads.com and PotomacBeads.eu, happy creating and be nice and kind with your pattern etiquette.